Cara, thank you so much for joining us and for all these practical, simple, easy to understand and execute tips that you've shared with us in terms of taking care of our mental health and different people around us. I guess the last thing that I want to talk to you about is taking care of mental health of adolescents. And at this point, they are. Would you say that they're already capable of taking care of their mental health, plus resources for the parents, or should it still be mainly a role for parents?
Adolescence is one of my favorite age groups to work with. I'm very, very passionate about them, and I've spent most of my career working with them. Adolescence is such a tricky time of life because they are not children, but they're not quite adults. So, to answer your question, can they take care of themselves? Yes, but to a certain point. And they very much need their parents to really help model and shape those areas where they can't quite handle their mental health on their own.
Right. So, what are your tips for taking for parents? I suppose taking care of adolescents that are their children in this time.
So my first tip is it's really important for parents, both outside of quarantine and in quarantine, to understand what's going on in adolescent development. Dr. Dan Siegel is a very famous neuropsychiatrist, actually, who he has mapped out the brain development of an adolescent. And there's a lot going on in there. It's very technical, but what parents need to know, part of the reason that we see such intense emotions in adolescence is because the brain undergoing a massive reconstruction process. So they have spikes in their emotions that happen really fast and really intensely, and then they'll go away right away. Dr. Dan Siegel calls them like tsunamis of emotions. So in this time of quarantine, where an adolescent's life is completely disrupted, they're not with their friends, they're not playing their sports, parents should expect tsunamis of emotions to happen. And that's very normal. I think as parents, when we understand that that's normal and expected, it takes off a little bit of fear that we might experience. And to help our teens understand this is normal, and this is how we're going to get through it. So teaching them coping skills. When you feel really angry, go do this. When you feel really sad, go do that. Engaging their bodies is a really important aspect in adolescence. I think it's true for all of us, but especially for adolescents, if they are feeling angry, anxious, sad, to get their bodies moving and going to try and get through that tsunami of emotion.
So, what I'm getting from this, from what you said, is expect it and help them go through it. So don't stifle it.
Right, and it's like kind of like with our little ones with tantrums. You want to stop that right now.
Right.
I think we do need to teach our teens there's appropriate ways to have the tsunamis. There's appropriate ways to express that, and as parents to always be aware of, is this a red flag? Is this happening? Is there a pattern that I need to be concerned about? But yeah, we don't want to stifle it. We want to say emotions are a normal part of the human experience. They are actually good. It's very cathartic to go through our emotions, but to do that in a healthy way and to cope with it well. Number two, adolescents, they need their peers. I think this is a time of life where it's crucial to have people their own age. Yes, our young children need it. Yes, as adults, we need it. But there's a very important developmental milestone in adolescence called identity formation. They're figuring out who they are, and their parents are a part of that, but so are their peers. And this time of quarantine, when they're not with their peers, I think this age group is suffering the most in terms of loneliness and in terms of a loss of connectedness. So parents, if you can help your child feel connected to their peers, whether that's they schedule Zoom parties or FaceTime or play games on FaceTime, whatever that looks like, to feel connected to their peers. I've seen a lot of, individuals who are having birthdays and they do drive-through birthdays, even if it's just for moments to see their peers, to laugh, to share a joke. We want to make sure our adolescents are connected to their peers.
Does that include social media? And how much social media should you allow your adolescent children to have?
That's a great question, and it's highly debated in the field of psychology, I will say. It does come down to good screen time versus bad screen time. And also there's a difference between how boys and girls respond to social media. Girls tend to be at greater risk for the ill effects of social media than boys. So I think as parents, we want to be very educated on that. Dr. Leonard Sachs is a psychologist who's written profusely on the subject of social media and boys versus girls. So I encourage parents to research research his books. He has several books. But I think, yes, social media can be very important for adolescents, but it's got to be timed well, and to make sure that it's uplifting and positive social media and not negative.
And we all know that there's a lot of predators out there. So I would probably also suggest parents know what's going on. Maybe have a deal and say, oh, you can have a YouTube channel, or you can have an Instagram account or a Facebook account, but I need to be able to access that as well. I think,
absolutely.
Is that too much?
Right. No, I don't think too much. The teenager will tell you it's too much. The teenager will say, you're invading my privacy. Right. But it really is not an issue of privacy. It's an issue of safety. So yes, I think the parents should absolutely have access to view what their children is consuming on social media or posting on social media.
Right. All right. And point number three.
Adolescence is all about identity formation. It's all about figuring out who they are and finding a sense of purpose. And I think in this time of quarantine is a great time for parents to help their young adolescents or older adolescents ask that question. What's your purpose? What do you want to do in life? Have those conversations. What are you passionate about? Do you want to go help the world? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be a doctor? Really helping them figure out what is my purpose can help them find direction, especially for our older adolescents who might be juniors or seniors in high school, and even young college students. What do you want to do with your life? Do you want to start a family? Do you want to go do mission work in a third world country? Whatever that is, help your adolescent develop a sense of purpose in the world and for their life.
And this is a good segue to my question that I've been reserving till after your point 3, which is now, for parents whose adolescents, we hear this a lot, oh, they don't want to talk. They like to get cooped up in their room, and they only come out to eat meals with us, and then they hardly talk during that time as well. And then they go back to the room, and I don't know what they're doing inside. Like, what would you say?
Yeah, I think, again, this is where adolescents will say, well, I want my privacy. And yes, they should have some privacy and some autonomy, but too much of it is dangerous, So I think really encouraging, or even sometimes mandating, that the teenager have family time outside of meals, do puzzles, do game nights. I think also for the parent, it's important to establish that relationship and keep asking questions. Even if they give you one-word answers, keep asking the question, because it sends the message that my parent sees me and hears me and they care. I think also you can employ other adults in the adolescent's life, whether it's a grandparent, an aunt and uncle, older cousin, an older sibling, to get them involved as well, because adolescents need lots of adults in their lives, not just their parents, to really help them develop their sense of self, their sense of purpose, and how do I deal with the quarantine and have good mental health.
Right. And finally, we've been talking about this adolescent stage. What do you consider? Is there, the science consider the age? Is it about age or is it about development? When you say adolescent, what does that mean?
Great question. I think for a long time, we thought adolescence was 13 to 19, the ages that had the word teen in it. But really, when we look at brain development, adolescence starts at around age 12. That's when the brain reconstruction process starts. And it goes until age 25. Wow. Which is, I know, the first time I heard that, I was like, what? But they've really found that the brain development, it starts at 12 and it goes till 25. So even though our young 20s are considered young adults, they're out there and working in the career that they've chosen, there's still brain development going on. So we want to be sensitive to that as parents, even though they're in college and even maybe post-college, those early 20s, they're still going through that brain development. They still need their parents. They still need a strong support system to say, hey, how are you growing into the adult that you want to be?
Speaking of early adulthood, a lot of people now after college I just read about this because I know that we talked about this before the interview, a lot of them are seeing spikes of depression and mental health issues among postgraduate, like students who just graduated from school, very excited to take on life, take on a job, and then they just been laid off, furloughed, and whatnot. So we also extend help to them at this time, especially for the parents. I'm seeing a pattern, Cara, in all that you're saying, from if you have children from 0 to 5, or 6 to 12, or 13 to like 25, which is what you said, that parents really do play an important role. It never stops, parenthood.
I completely agree. And I think I'll hear sometimes parents say, oh, once my kid is 18, I'm done. I think there can be that temptation because parenthood is exhausting. I think it's one of the hardest jobs on the face of
It
the
is
planet.
the hardest, I think.
Right? It's the
Yes.
hardest thing, but it's also super rewarding, to see our children, they are these tiny little babies, and for them to grow up and experience new things in life and to go out into the world. We never stop playing a role. I'm in my 30s and I still call my mom sometimes when something happens. We always need our parents. So parents, I really want to encourage you to know the value that you play, the role that you play. You are so important in the life of your child, whether they're 1 or 24. They need their parents. They might not say that. They might give you looks that make you feel like they think you're not smart, but you're smart. You are wise. You are important. You are necessary in the life of your child. So keep building that relationship and be there for them.
And for those parents, just as a reminder, who are working from home, and I always remind myself this also because there's this temptation to just blow them away because we think that work is important. It is important, but when it comes to a choice, right or wrong, I always drop work first and take care of the needs of my children. I think in the long run, it will yield its benefits.
I completely agree. And because the truth is, your work could find someone to replace you, but your children can never replace you. You're
Oh,
irreplaceable as the role of their parent.
I love that because I know I'm seeing it. This is the first time I'm hearing that because I hear advice from like, oh, you can take up work another time. You can get another career. You can do your career when your children are older and can take care of themselves. But this is the first time I'm seeing you're right. The work can replace you, but your children can never replace you. And so with that, we end this discussion. It has been most helpful, and I really enjoy this, Cara. I'm really thankful that we got connected.
I'm so grateful to have been here. Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you. And Cara's information on the screen, should you need to get a hold of her. She does family counseling. Also, she loves working with adolescents. So there you go, parents. If you're having a hard time with your children, send them to Cara. But, Cara, thank you once again, and more power to you.